I was an Air Force brat. So for the first 20 years of my life before I left for college and moved out of the house, I was in the same boat of moving around the world, having those really hard conversations of dad's leaving, dad's coming back, we're all moving and all of this stuff, and really just kind of being drug along a little bit.
Right.
You're born into it. You don't necessarily choose that life when you're a brat. And so definitely going to be a great conversation today. And I just love getting to talk with you about it as someone who has also been in that boat.
Yes. Yeah, it is definitely a unique boat for sure. Our military families face so many unique challenges that secular and civilian society does not encounter as often or as frequently. And especially when you're talking about the PCS and being drug along and having these decisions made outside of your choosing, where you're going, when you have to be there, what you're going to be doing when you arrive, leaving friends, leaving the comfort of what's familiar, going to something new on a fairly regular cadence. Most military families will move about between every 2 to 5 years during their active duty stints. The different ranks, the different branches have some differences there, but most of our military families are experiencing a PCS fairly regularly, and that is very different from other sectors within society who are not moving that frequently and who have the ability to settle in, put down some roots, and stay connected to friends and family and coworkers and community, which is really a challenge for our military folks.
Okay, so would you mind just kind of explaining what PCS is to the people who maybe don't have an understanding of what it is?
Yeah, PCS is simply permanent change of station. What that means is that a military member has received orders that have told them basically they are moving from wherever they are currently stationed, whatever base or military facility they are assigned to a new military facility, a new assignment. And that is typically not just around the corner. That's usually across the country, to a new state, or even to another part of the world if they're doing an international PCS. And so it comes with a lot of challenges, a lot of logistics that will go into a PCS, not only for the military member, but also the family. Things like having to reestablish schools, doctors, and care. And even though the military does a good job reestablishing, for example, medical care, as most military members will be seen base to base. If a military family member has any specialty needs from a medical perspective, that can be an extra strain on the family, making sure that there are services available for that family member that does have unique needs. And so all of those little things that we take for granted, our churches, our neighbors, our grocery stores, our gas stations of choice, the local big box store that we frequent. When we move someplace else, all of that has to be reestablished.
Yeah. I remember very vividly being in the middle of high school and having that conversation around the dinner table. And it was a very unexpected conversation. We didn't think we were going to be leaving yet. And I remember just very vividly all of those things running through my head, all of the different things that all of a sudden we're going to have to change. And, obviously I'm not necessarily thinking about the adult things, like the medical, all of that, but I'm thinking friends and just a safe environment that is familiar and that I know, in our house and my bedroom and all of these different things, in the middle of high school. Right. And so, and I know that I'm not the only person with that story. And so I guess my next question would just be, who are you writing this article to?
So this article is intended specifically in support of our military families. However, anyone that is going through a life transition like a major move, which could be due to a job change in civilian world, um, would benefit from this because they're going to experience many of the same things, but perhaps some more on a at will sort of timeline and a desire to move and choosing where they're going and choosing the job that they're going to be doing. But many of the same stressors are going to be the same for anyone who is moving household, family to a new location. The military, of course, it's not your choice. It's not a place you maybe want to go or hoping to go. Sometimes it is, but not always. And so there are some of those additional um, factors that come in after orders are received. Now we start to research the area around the base where we're going to live. We're going to start to become familiar versus a civilian who is moving. They're doing that, excuse me, that research ahead of time. And they're looking, where do I want to live? Where do I want to go? Where do I want to work? And so they're having a little more choice. And not having choice is a factor that affects military families because it's after the fact that those orders are received. And usually within 90 to 180 days, that move is happening. So it's very much beyond the military members' control, beyond the control of the family members. And you just gotta, buckle up and hold on for the ride that's in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, you wrote this article, from your own experiences, and, a lot of it is inspired from your own experiences in your family. Can you kind of expand on and y'all's experience and what you have, experienced and seen, kind of your story, I guess, with this?
Yeah, no, that is a great question. And every military family is going to have a slightly different experience, or maybe even a greatly different experience. Our experience with PCS was early on very welcomed. It was an exciting time, especially as the children were younger. They just picked up and moved with us. There wasn't a whole lot of consideration for, what's going to happen with them. It was
Right.
our job to move and our job to serve,
Yeah,
and
I mean, I
and we did it.
remember it being a really fun adventure when I was little, and before I had really wanted to put down roots and had, really solid foundations and relationships and things like that. And I remember it being really fun. We got to go to new places, new cultures, and it was so fun. Probably until I was about 9 or 10, and then it started to kind of. I got that realization that like, oh, like a lot of my other friends aren't moving, every couple of years.
Right, right. And that was very similar to the experience that we had with our children. And as they got older, the moves became more difficult. And one of the reasons that we precipitated a retirement at just under 22 years in service was our youngest was in the last legs of his high school career, and it was available. It was an option that was available to my husband to retire, and we decided to take it. Not the only factor. There were some other factors that were at play as well. And our youngest son did have some medical concerns, and so those were one of the precipitating factors that we did consider in choosing to retire. And so, yeah, there's that experience of moving younger children is much easier than moving older children. And older children are getting more focused on their connections with their community, their schools, their sports, their other extracurriculars. They're starting to focus as they get into the high school years on college and then their own lives. And instability that can come with a PCS during those years are a challenge to many military families. And we bore that challenge as well. I remember our middle daughter stating, over and over again, "You've ruined my life. You've ruined my life."
Oh yeah, I think I definitely had moments saying the same exact thing to my dad and my mom, like, I hate this, I hate everything. Like, yeah, for
Right.
sure.
Right. And as a parent, we agreed, right? Yeah, this is really difficult. It's a very hard, and trying to understand the heart of our child who doesn't have decades of experience behind her. She is experiencing all of this new. And while the children do understand PCS, they had been through it before. The difficulty that came as they became teenagers and were navigating these different relationship shifts as they moved from having a core stable group of friends to not knowing anyone in a new location. And so they're navigating that, and as a parent supporting your children in those really challenging and difficult times is a challenge for the parent as well. It's not just um, when your child is accusing you of ruining their life, right? You have to balance what they know and understand with, this isn't going to be forever, but also caring for their heart, and knowing that, yeah, it's hard. It's hard for you, it's hard for us. It's hard for us as mom and dad to see you struggling and to really want to help you through that. And oftentimes feeling like, what do we do? We can't not ruin their life, right? If this is how the child is perceiving what's happening to them, and it is very much happening to the child, they are being forced to move,
Mhm.
and they don't have a choice in where they go, what they do, leaving their friends, leaving their communities. And so that takes a tremendous amount of care and energy on the parent's behalf to be able to resonate and extend that care to the child, and to let them know that we hear you. It is terrible. It is not any fun, and we're gonna try and do what we can to move through this really difficult time.
Right, right. I mean, just validating their emotions, right? And it is a very emotional experience. And you think of being, a teenager and your emotions are already a little bit heightened, and it is very emotional. And you say in your article, that emotions are information. And I would love for you to just kind of expand on that idea around families in this situation. How are emotions information?
Yeah, that is a cultural point that I think we can maybe do a better job of understanding. So much of our emotion is responded to in a way that isn't always helpful, and not only with military families, but culturally, and even on a global level. We as humans are uncomfortable with strong emotion. We we don't have a really good way. How do I respond when someone is truly upset, right? We may have heard messages growing up ourselves that, something that, are you crying? Are you crying? Oh, I'll give you something to cry about. We learn instinctively then, and we move to protect ourselves. So we learn that our emotion is not welcome. We may have heard messages when we've been sad or we've been upset. Oh, don't be sad. You shouldn't be sad about that. And so we learn these messages that say my emotions are wrong, my emotions don't matter, they're unwelcomed by other people, right? Let that go. Just get over that. Move on, right? So we see ourselves kind of culturally pushing away what we actually feel. But what we actually feel is neither right nor wrong. Our emotions just are. And when we learn that our emotion is information. It's telling us something much the same way that a traffic sign tells us something, right? A stop sign, yes, it says stop, but why does it say stop? What is the greater information that that traffic sign is communicating? It's likely communicating there's an intersection and we need to pay attention to that, or we could get T-boned and something very bad could happen. When we see a curve ahead sign, what does it communicate? Yes, there's a curve in the road, but there's so much more information that that sign is communicating, right? Likely there's a steep drop off. Likely there could be oncoming traffic that you can't see. That sign is giving us much more information than just a curve. Our emotions are the same way. They're communicating something that we need to pay attention to. So if I'm feeling sad, if I push that away, I'm going to miss the information that the sadness is trying to communicate to me, the greater information. So what is the sadness? Why am I sad? Where is that sadness coming from? If I can explore that and I can understand what that emotion is about, I can make a choice and I can choose to respond to that emotion in a more healthy and helpful way. Mm. That is helpful not only to me, the one experiencing the emotion, but to others as they experience my response to that emotion.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Honestly, I wish I had someone as a military child, someone to tell me these things, someone to validate my emotions, but also speak truth into that and tell me, what's behind that, right? I think that that's so awesome. So I guess my next question would just be, can you speak directly to parents kind of in this PCS situation on, I guess, just some advice? What would you say to them in that situation as far as, moving their kids goes?
Recognize there is going to be a lot of emotion first and foremost. There's going to be emotion for you, for your spouse, for your children, for your neighbors, for your coworkers. Everybody is feeling about the PCS. People are going to miss you. You're going to miss others. When we recognize as an adult, wow, I'm really going to miss my friend, my neighbor. Mm-hmm. And then maybe take a look at, okay, if that's how I'm feeling, can I connect with and imagine how my teenager might be feeling or my tween might be feeling? They don't have the capacity nor the experience that you as an adult have generated over your lifetime to be able to navigate their emotional experience well. So as they're experiencing that sadness, it might feel really large. And to you as a parent, the natural inclination may be like, whoa, 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 that's too much. But for them as a child, it's not really too much. It's just right because they might be experiencing these very strong emotions for the first time. And they don't have the depth of experience with how to navigate them in a helpful way. And that's where moms and dads can come in to help co-regulate their emotions. Yeah, I see how you're really going to be missing your friend Tara. I really understand that that's gonna be hard for you. As we affirm, validate, and help the child regulate, it almost helps the emotion to normalize for that child. Mm. That we're not getting over the emotion. We're not pushing the emotion away, but we're turning toward it. We're turning toward it and inviting it and letting it be okay. So our child is okay with experiencing that sadness, with experiencing that grief that they might be anticipating or actually experiencing, depending on which side of the PCS they're on. Mm-hmm. And so as we can do a better job as parents, not a perfect job because none of us are perfect parents, but to do a better job to help turn toward the emotion and help our child learn that it's okay to have these emotions in these times because it's a very normal. All of us are experiencing the emotions. And even sharing your own, yeah, I'm feeling the same way. I'm going to miss, my coworkers, and I'm going to miss our good neighbors and good friends. That it helps to normalize what they're experiencing.
Mhm.
And sometimes our parents, we say things like, oh, they're just acting that way to get attention. Exactly. They are. They need your attention. And so, can we give them the attention that they so need, that they are so wanting from us as a parent? Because what they need is help right now. What they need is our attention, is to help them through the experiences that we've had, to know that they can go through this experience and that they can move through the difficult struggle that it is, and that you're going to be there supporting, loving, caring, nurturing, which will help to foster the bond within the family.
Mhm. Yeah. And, you just said this, but of course, there's a lot more emotion going on beyond just the kids feeling the emotion. It's the wife, it's the husband, it's the coworkers, the neighbors, all of that. And really, and you talk about this, it's really just disappointment. There's a lot of disappointment there, and it can be easy to just really kind of sit in that disappointment in a way that maybe can be unhealthy. And so I think the last question I want to ask you, and you talk about this in your article, you give several tips kind of for dealing with the emotions during PCS, but you talk about speaking truth to your disappointment. Can you just maybe, I guess, give some practical tips for doing that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the disappointment, the grief, the sadness, that's all kind of coming up. Yes, I'm disappointed because I have to leave. I'm very sad because I won't be connected in the same ways that I was connected before. And I'm grieving because it is a loss. It's a loss of connection. It's a loss of community. It's a loss of friendship. And while we have social media and lots of ways to stay connected, it's not the same when we move to another part of the world and our old friends and our old community continues on without us. And we feel very disconnected from that as we're trying to simultaneously reconnect in a new place, in a new situation, new environment. And so, yes, that disconnection and that disappointment that comes with that, it's real. And when we tell ourselves that doesn't matter, just move on, you'll be fine, get over it, just keep moving forward, is that really helpful to us? Is it really true? No, what's true is I'm feeling pretty yucky right now. I might be feeling not so great. My kids might be feeling not so great. My husband might be feeling not so great. And to acknowledge that, it aligns us. That helps us within ourselves to feel I'm validating myself. I'm helping myself by aligning with what is really true and happening within my heart, within my soul. And last I checked, our God is a God of truth. And when we can be truthful with ourselves, and we can invite our Heavenly Father in that place, we align. And when we're aligned, we feel better. Oftentimes, when we're trying to move on, move forward, get over it, we develop anxiety.
Mm.
We feel very anxious. There's a part of us that is like, you're not listening to me. And it's kind of coming up, right? But we're saying, no, I don't want to listen to that. I want to get over that. I want to move beyond that. And sometimes that anxiety starts to build between the tension of pay attention to what's going on. No, I don't want to. And we feel almost like we're vibrating, so
Mhm.
to speak, with anxiety. Like there's so much that wants to come up, that wants to be heard, yet we're suppressing it, we're pushing it down, we're pushing it aside, we're trying to get rid of it. And if we turn toward it, we align with it. It is no longer kind of fighting against the part of us that is trying to push it away. We align. And we feel better when we do.
Yeah, that's so good. Wow. I mean, I've been there and in those situations. And so I feel like I'm getting counseling as we're talking right now because I'm like, wow, yes, that is exactly what it feels like. So I love that. And I love your heart just to pour into these military families because I really, I don't think they like fall through the cracks, but I think that it's something that maybe isn't talked about enough. And so I appreciate just your heart for it, your heart to minister to those families. So super good. And I am so thankful that you wrote that and hopefully it's able to encourage the people watching.